Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast, where we come to you live from Sibec, North America in Coronado, California for the second in a two-part series. In this week's episode, we sit down with the Chief Strategy Officer for REGYMEN Fitness and co-founder of the Covery Wellness and Spa, Edward Navan. We speak to the President, CEO and founder of Fitness Project, Bryan Murphy, the Senior Director of Fitness for Fitness Formula Clubs, John Baraglia, and the Chief Operating Officer at World Gym International, Jarrod. Saracco. I hope you get one or two takeaways from this week's episode, and if you do, please give us a thumbs up or leave us a short review so we can reach more people. Thank you very much for listening.
Edward, thank you very much for joining us today. What a place to do a podcast, huh?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure being here. I've always wanted to be on the Matthew J podcast, so, you know, it's a big thing.
And it's a beautiful place. We've got the ocean behind us, and yeah, you know, it's a great day. So, yeah, looking forward to the next couple of days.
Absolutely. Sibec's always it's a wonderful event. It gives us a chance to really kind of know our, you know, the vendors a little bit better, just to get them to know as people, and it's great for us to build some trust in each other. So right. we always look forward to this event every year.
So what was in particular now coming off the back of the crazy world we're in? What was it that you're coming here to specifically look for?
Really, you know, with COVID, obviously it threw everybody's plans a little bit in the mix, and it made us have to refocus and reorganize what we're doing. So we wanted to come back here and, you know, look at some new forms of equipment, new ways of doing our layouts and designs. We were really having these meetings to figure out how to more efficiently design in smaller spaces moving forward, right, for what we're doing.
How were you affected then? You've got how many facilities? Because you got franchise business and you got your corporate side.
So we've got franchises and we've got licenses. We were fortunate because we're based in the Southeast. So while we had slowdowns, we didn't have the major issues like California and a lot of the northern states did. So we were fortunate there. A lot of our licensees, so we have a franchise and a license model.
Okay. What's the difference between those?
The difference between the two, with the franchise, it's going to be more brick and mortar, A-type real estate. With the license model, we go in and we work a lot with like the YMCAs. We've got a great relationship with Good Life Fitness where we come in, we help them design the space, we provide the programming, we provide the training of the coaches, and then from there, they take our product and they run with it. So as far as the franchise and license model, the big difference is in the amount of control that you have over it. Right. The license has a lot more freedom. So part of the reason we went the license route is we were able to work with some really big names and some good players in the industry that we were able to learn from. You know, getting a relationship with Good Life was fantastic for us because that's, you know, one of the most well-respected brands out there. Mm-hmm. So for us, we're really careful with who we pick our licenses because we want to learn from them as much as they can learn from us.
Right. So what have they done up in Canada then with Good Life? Are they putting your sort of functional training HIIT concept within their clubs? Is that how they've done it?
Yeah, so we're seeing that big box. You know, REGYMEN originally started as a licensed concept in big box health clubs. And we looked at the space kind of like Les Mills had. You know, Les Mills did a great job with programming and helping monetize the space. We wanted to take it a step further with HIIT training. So what we do is we go inside of them, we define a good space anywhere from 1,000 to upwards of 3,000 square feet. We lay it out, and then we teach these guys, hey, you might be charging, you know, $29 to $49 for a base membership. Let's go ahead and layer on these extra services to where you can charge $99 to $179 a month. So that's exactly, you know, the route Good Life has taken. We've seen some YMCAs take that route where they're really starting to monetize the HIIT models inside of in their big boxes. I kind of equate it to a food court at a mall.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
You've got a couple of different selections for the members, so they stay engaged a lot longer.
Right.
For us, we see it helps drive personal training. Personal training helps drive the group fit. So it's been a special experience for us.
Did you have to do what most people have done, is come up with a digital product throughout that period?
We did. When COVID hit, we looked at it and we came up with what's called REGYMEN on the Run. And we had already had a really strong workout format that we work out with a group called Gym Elite. And they designed all of the screens for us, the movement screens. During COVID, we pivoted, we took that and we put it online for virtual workouts. Now, I'm one of the people that does feel as though virtual workouts and virtual fitness is important, but people are rushing back to the brick and mortar for the relationships more than anything else. You know, it's funny, last weekend I was at a bar in Vegas and there was a robot bar. And well, it's such a cool concept, but it was empty because people, no matter what you do, people want to engage. Yeah. So the answer to your question, yes, we did roll out a digital format during COVID and we have it now, but we're not taking leaps and bounds forward in the digital era. We're not really pushing our consumers towards an online platform at this point. We're really saying, come back in and see us.
So one of the things we met last year, and I was very impressed with the direction that you were going, because I'd had a lot of people on our podcast, and a lot of the conversations were around not just having the importance of working out, but the recovery side of things. And you've got an interesting model in that space. So tell us a little bit about, one, why did you feel it was something that you were going to sort of really invest quite heavily in developing? And then two, how did you decide to pull that together? Because I guess a little bit unlike fitness equipment, where you've got these brands that kind of do everything for you and have strength and cardio, etc. In this space, I understand it's a little bit more kind of fragmented. So why did you do it? And then how did you go about sort of pulling different solutions and vendors together?
A lot of it was selfish reasons. As we, I keep mentioning COVID, and everyone does, but that gave us a chance to kind of pause and reflect at what we were doing. And in 2017 at the IRSA show, I started to see some recovery platforms out there. And like everybody else, I got curious about it. I wanted to see where is this really going to go? And so we had looked at things like compression therapy, cryotherapy, and red light, but that was where we were in 2018, 2019. Just really studying it. And then when COVID hit that pause button, we had time to take a really deep dive into what are the mental aspects of this? What about mental wellness? We need aesthetics as well. You've probably heard me talk about and say this, it's always been vanity versus vitality for a lot of people. The recovery route has been amazing to us because it's had a lot of people come in that don't work out. And as they start to feel better, they want to move. And then they're actually getting into the gym itself. So, during coming out of this COVID era, the one thing that I've paid a lot of attention to is we all have one linear commonality running through us, and that's stress. And it's going to manifest itself either physically or mentally. For most cases, it was both. For me, starting REGYMEN and trying to grow a brand, grow a team and everything else, I was just exceptionally stressed. So I started to study a lot about the effects of hyperbaric. We looked at the things such as dry float, what it does for the mental capabilities. We looked at things like PEMF for pain management. We looked at heavily into aesthetics. We brought things in like hydrofacial. Well, we knew that a lot of women would come in and say, hey, the skin is our biggest organ, obviously. So if they can look a little bit better in that face, by the way, while we're doing a hydrofacial, let's sit on a set of compression pants. These Balancer Pros that do lymphatic drainage. We're gonna literally clear the waste out of your body as we beautify your face. And oh, by the way, let's put an IV in that arm for skin tone, skin consistency. So I think recovery has shown us that there are so many different avenues you can go down. It's not just about the physical recovery. It's about the mental. It's also about the beauty and the aesthetic side.
Yeah, it kind of seems as though it's overlaps like fitness and beauty and kind of a wellness thing altogether.
It does. We struggle as gym owners all the time about what's our demographic, what's our message. Recovery has such a large demographic because you're going to have people that come in there that they haven't moved properly in years because of lifestyle. And if you can just start them with one process, let's say with an IV, for example, and think about this. If you were to break your arm today or break your leg, God forbid, and you get put in an ambulance, what's the first thing they do? They pop an IV in that arm. So the IV is the start of healing, but it's only the start. What's cryotherapy going to do for you? If we can make you move better, make you think clearer, everybody around you is going to function better. So we love REGYMEN. We love where it's going in the industry. We see a very clear path with this recovery project we're doing right now. We've got 3 spas open. We've got 7 more in development, and we're taking calls every day about this. And we're a year into it, and we're learning so much. So in short, really, as I kind of ramble here, the reality is this is the convergence of medical and fitness. We're no longer in the business of telling people, work out 7 days a week. We're now in the business of saying, hey, if you're drained mentally, you're drained physically, let's look at your results, whether it's Whoop, Oura Ring, BioStrap. Let's see what the technology is telling us about your body right now. If you're drained, working out isn't what you need to do today. You need to go mentally decompress. Let's get your mind right. Let's get your body rested. Let's sleep properly. Now your results in the gym are going to be tenfold.
Are you going to franchise that, or are you franchising?
We are franchising.
You are?
Yeah. So we started out, like I said, we're about a year old as a brand. We're opening franchises right now in Alabama, Florida. We've got some in Texas. We're getting excited about Nashville's on the way. We've got North Carolina on the way. So we're moving rapidly. It's The team's expanding rapidly, and what's great about this is we were able to take a lot of our REGYMEN team and morph them along with recovery as well. So they're on the Covery side of the project too.
I would have thought, compared to fitness, where the retention is always a lot of work, I would have thought that this type of thing, which is kind of like a consumable that you come in, you have it done, it is easier to retain people because it's not like quite as difficult as going in for a workout. Is that the case, or is that just a...
No, it is the case. And what's really interesting is when you think about the workout, you know, we know we're going to improve people both mentally and physically, but they actually have to do the work. With recovery, when they come in, within 2 minutes or less, I can make you feel 15 to 20 years younger. I mean, imagine coming in even after this show, or as much as you try.
Yeah, I'd love to go and do one of those now.
As a rep, I was on the road 200 plus days a year, and that takes its toll on your body. So the thing is, if you just get in a set of compression pants, you feel like you're walking on air 15 minutes later. You know, you get an IV, suddenly your body's fluid, you're moving again. You do a cryotherapy, you feel like you can jump through a building. So I think what our industry needs to learn about recovery is it's instant gratification. It's actually, we thought fitness people would flock to recovery. And a lot of them understand cryo, but they don't understand red light. They don't understand compression. They don't understand necessarily the IVs. So sometimes fitness people can be a little bit more opinionated about that. Non-fitness people coming into the recovery concept, they automatically want to learn more about how to move and how to get better. So as an industry, we need to look at recovery as it is a retention tool for fitness people coming over, but it's really a lead generator to get more people into a fitness lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of what we first thought it was going to be.
Okay. And my guess is the numbers, as there's probably not as many, and you've got a lot of different solutions, like financially, is if you were, I'm not saying you'd have to choose between the two, but is it, you know, did the numbers stack up? You know, it's a bigger market, there's a regular flow of people, and you've got a number of treatments. You know, is it something that people should look in from a financial perspective?
They absolutely should, because the thing about what we've done with the Covery model itself is people can get into this for $250,000 or less, all the way to $600,000 and above. And the reality is it all depends on the therapies and treatments you want. But the beauty of this recovery model is if you get started and build your space out smart, you can grow into it over the years. So what we're finding with recovery is it is definitely, you need to keep your value. My one big concern is recovery breaks in the fitness industry are owners charging for it like it deserves to be charged for. You know, I hope we don't see recovery turning to tanning inside of health clubs, for example. But the beauty of the recovery model is you don't have to have 80 or 90 people a day walk through your doors. You're perfectly fine with 15 to 20, and then they'll continue to come back. So it is a high return on investment, and it's a higher price consumable for the customer, but they feel better automatically, so they always come back.
Yeah, and I guess your referrals is a lot. Well, I guess it's good for people to refer others as well on that.
It is. People like to talk about it. Yeah. This is, you know, with fitness, it's interesting because a lot of people, I was a personal trainer for 18 years. And a lot of times to get your clients to tell somebody else about you, it was like a big secret. With recovery, it's not. People walk out and they're like, I got an IV today and I did a red light here. And they're just, it's so new, they're excited to talk about it. Okay. So it's something that the fitness space really needs to embrace in these coming years. And you can't half-ass it. You've got to do it right. If you're going to do it, you've got to put the investment in it. And you've got to make it an experience for that member. It really has to be.
One of the things we've been talking about quite a bit here is the challenges around staff retention, and just even getting people in. With this particular business model, is it a certain caliber of person that's able to do those things, and how easy is it to get the people required if you wanted to expand in this area?
If I said it was easy, I'd be lying. It's never easy to find anybody, even for our gyms in general, but we find that we work with a lot of RNs, and getting an RN on staff is fantastic because if you're going to be doing things like IVs and NAD therapy, you have to have that medical presence, obviously. But we find that getting the RNs is actually relatively easy because a lot of them...
Is that registered nurses?
Registered nurses, okay. Yep. A lot of them don't want to work in hospital environments anymore. It's stressful, they're overwhelmed. It's just not the environment you want to be in 36 hours a week. So we have a lot coming over that realize this is a quality of life care. They can move at a little slower pace, and I hate to say it, but they don't have the big medical bureaucracy in their way. Okay. They can actually treat people with outcome-based therapies. Instead of prescribing, medications, we're actually prescribing therapies. There's a great book called Upstream Thinking, And it talks about how in other countries, they spend so much money on prevention, where in America, we're spending all of our money on the cure itself. We're not spending anything on not getting sick. And so I really think...
more money in it, I guess. That's why.
That's true. So I really think that what you're going to see in the next 8 to 10 years is the model similar to the Covery and others that are out there is that's going to be mainstream healthcare. I really think that's what we're going to see.
Thank you for supporting the Escape Your Limits podcast. If you're thinking about creating a unique and engaging fitness space to take your fitness to the next level, then we have you covered. Escape Fitness design and manufacture some of the most innovative, attractive, and durable functional training and free weight equipment used by many of the best trainers and fitness brands across the globe. As a valued listener, we are offering you a 10% discount off many of the products on our website. You can check out the full range by going to escapefitness.com and use the code DUMBBELL. That's escapefitness.com using the code DUMBBELL. That's it from me. Please enjoy the rest of this interview.
Are those registered nurses, do they have a potential to even earn more if they were to come over out of their normal, or is that similar?
They do. It's, again, right now, healthcare and pay is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, coming out of COVID, some hospitals were paying double and triple. But as a nurse becomes the manager of it, and you know the way they can get benefits off of the numbers that come into the clinics themselves, they can make the equivalent of what they're making
without all the stuff.
Without all the stuff. Plus, they love the therapies. You know, this is you've got to have somebody in here that loves it and really understands it, because the thing that I think the fitness business needs to understand about recovery is there's a big education process around it. It's like everything else. The more we teach people the basics, the more they're in tune to listen to things like PEMF for pain management.
Right.
So the science is there. Social media is starting to put some of it out there. The reality is now we just have to rein it in and say, these are really effective therapies for what you need, and here's an effective route for the outcome you want.
So what's your expansion plans? Are you planning to come to California? I'd like to have one near me, actually.
We do plan to come to California. California is one of the toughest states to get registered to franchise in. Right. So that process is going to take us about 18 to 24 months. Expansion-wise, we're already out there. You know, we've gotten a lot of really qualified franchise leads. We're having a lot of medical doctors come over, which is really interesting to us to see doctors want to get in this, because a lot of these doctors are great at being doctors, but they don't have the time to run a business. So they like the idea of this business in a box that they can help control and influence.
Right. And what about internationally? Is there a lot of rules that kind of make that even more challenging in California? Or
It is. I mean, we have, you know, one of the things is you've got to stay inside the legal parameters. There's a lot of gray in this area right now. But as this expands, people are going to have to follow the medical rules that are in every single state. So to answer your question, we would love to go international, but we have to get our hands around all the states right now. Yeah. International expansion will come through the form of a partner overseas, somebody that partners with us, runs the system the right way.
Right.
You know, with REGYMEN, we expanded last year into Canada with Good Life. I think with the Covery, we're probably about 2 years to 3 years away from really seriously looking at that.
Right. So if anyone's listening and they want to, either models, like how do people get in touch with you? We will put the stuff in the
Absolutely.
links, but just for the benefit of the interview.
No problem. So you can go to thecoveryfranchise.com. You can even just go to thecovery.com and click on the franchise. Same thing with REGYMEN. If you just go to regimenfitness.com, you can click on franchise info, and those leads will bring you to our team. They'll walk you through the whole process. People can always reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. They know I'm all over social with that.
Fantastic. Edward, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, John.
Thanks for having me.
So how's things in Chicago? What's Fitness Formula up to? Are they got through everything okay? Still here?
Yeah, things are going well. The business is doing well. You know, there's a few different things that have happened. You know, we had a shift with our business, but members are coming back. Traffic's coming back. People are happy to be back in the gym. So things are going well.
So Chicago was fairly badly affected, wasn't it, from what I understand, in terms of the government and the lockdowns? Is that right?
Yeah, we had some pretty tough mitigations. And outside of a short period of time, our members were in masks pretty much all the way up until February, end of February.
This year?
This year.
Oh, right. Wow.
So, yeah, I would say probably some of the toughest, you know, mitigations that we heard of compared to some of our colleagues.
Right.
Was that stopping new people joining then, the mask? Because I was chatting to the guys from Equinox the other week, and they said that mask thing was a real problem for a lot of people. Not like for the people who didn't like wearing masks, that they couldn't get people back in to work out because it was mandatory. Was that, were you seeing the same thing, or were they fairly good about that in Chicago?
Yeah, no, I think it was probably the biggest deterrent that we had for new membership sales. And, maybe even more than the deterrent from people coming in who just didn't want to work out in masks, right? Especially higher intensity exercise, group fitness, getting on the cardiovascular machines. But besides that, just the relationships that we had with our members and some of the confrontation that happened with members and staff, here we are, we have to enforce the mitigations. And, it just caused a lot of frustration and a lot of communication issues. So I would say that was probably one of the toughest experiences we had through this whole thing, is just that relationship with our members. And it was both ways. It was people who, were frustrated that they had to come in and wear a mask. And then there was frustration of, hey, that member's mask dropped below his nose. How come you guys aren't saying anything? And so, we got it from both ways. It was a lose-lose situation for us. And, very tough. But we're through all of it. And, members are coming back, and people are just excited to be in the gym and feel the community. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things that they were missing during that time. And so it's fun to see that. It's fun for the members, and it's also fun for our employees to get that community back, get that energy back after so long.
With the employees, I know most people I've spoke to said that's challenging. Did you lose people as well because of some of the mandates that you had to have, where people were like, look, sod this, I'm not going to put up with that? Or were you able to retain a lot of your sort of key people, trainers, instructors, that sort of thing?
Yeah, staffing has been an issue. We were lucky enough that we were able to maintain a lot of our key management personnel, almost all of our key management personnel, general managers, department heads. But I think, COVID really took I think a lot of employees were really beat up during that period, just emotionally, and so we did lose employees, from the shutdown. During the shutdown, people went and found other jobs and did other things, and then we lost people when we reopened who just, the confrontation that was happening, the frustration that was happening, the negativity surrounding the industry and different things that were going on. So we lost good people, no doubt about it. And staffing has been a challenge. It's been hard to find good people. We talked this morning a little bit about the struggles that people are having hiring coaches. And, we just have to pivot. We have to find different ways to attract people. I think, there's a couple good key points that were made this morning. But, it's been a tough road. We have a ways to go to get back to where we were pre-pandemic.
Right. Have you, did you do any digital personal training? I know some of the people have been doing that, like, over the screen at home. Is that something you guys had got involved in at all? Yeah,
absolutely, and right from the start. So, I think what happened is when we reopened, some of the members that we were doing virtual coaching with came back. They just wanted to be in the fitness facilities. So the amount of virtual training that we're doing right now is minimal. However, from a nutrition perspective, we have registered dietitians in our facilities. Right now, telemedicine, which is, virtual nutrition coaching essentially, is about a third of the business we do right now. Wow. So that spiked way up when we shut down, and it's only come down a little bit. I mean, I think at one point we were doing 50% of our business right after we reopened through telemedicine, and it dropped off a little bit to about 35%, about a third of it, but it's still really high. Now, I think that's a little bit different demographic, a little bit different clientele type. I think there's a little bit more intimidation, so I think that model works well. and it's actually accelerated our nutrition business.
Right. What's the type of demographic that you guys bring into your clubs then, would you say? How would you best describe that? Target audience, are you sort of, where, for people who are listening who probably don't know about the clubs, like, where are they people with a bit more money that can afford to do personal training and nutrition coaching, or where do they sit?
Yeah, I think, busy professionals, we're highly immersed in the communities we're in. So we're getting, a lot of people from the community. We're also proximal to a lot of transportation centers where our locations are built, even in the suburbs right off the train. So we're getting a lot of commuters. Yeah.
How have you seen any changes from your clubs downtown, for example, and then the ones that are a little bit out of town? Are you seeing that the work from home is impacting what's busy at different times at all?
Yeah. The work from home has definitely impacted some of our city locations, especially in the Loop, Metro. But I think interestingly enough, with people working from home, I think our traffic patterns have not changed so much. We're really busy in the morning. We get the lunchtime crowd, and then we're real busy after work. I mean, I think even though people are working from home, I think they're working, and so I think they've kept their workout patterns, either before work or after work. There's been a little bit of change. We may get a little bit busier during some of the slower times, but I just think in general, we see a lot of the similar traffic patterns.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen, with people coming back, a change in what they're looking for from the gym? Like, the obvious one is a lot of us, we can go out and do our cardio, but we've not been able to do any weights and squat racks and all that sort of stuff. So have you seen, like, the patterns that people created when they couldn't get into a gym, and now they're coming back and they're really hungry for things that weren't there before at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and talking with a lot of colleagues here, I think they're seeing the same thing. I think there's definitely been a move more towards free weights and functional training away from cardiovascular machines, right? So our elliptical uses seems to be down, and treadmill use down a little bit. And I think there's a lot of different factors. I mean, I think one of the factors that we specifically experienced in Chicago was people didn't want to get on a treadmill with a mask. Right. So the usage of that kind of equipment went down, I think, a lot based on that. And people found alternatives. And now I think what you're seeing is some of the people are sticking to some of those new patterns that they've created. However, our cardiovascular usage has gone up, right, since the masks have gone away. But another thing that's been interesting is the demand just for our free weight space, our adjustable bench space. People are using a lot of dumbbells. They're using a lot of barbell movements, so squat racks and Olympic benches. And in almost every location at this point, and if we haven't done it, we're going to do it in the next several months, we've expanded all of our free weight areas to accommodate that demand. And it's why that has happened, I don't know, but I have two things that I think happened. One is, during the pandemic, I think one thing that people couldn't get at home was replicating that free weight experience to the level that they did in a facility. So I think there was pent-up demand for that. But I also think the other thing is, people who are following fitness on social media, if you look to see where that has gone, it's a lot of people doing Olympic movements, functional movements in their homes, in their basements, on their lawns, and so I think that's created a whole new focus to that kind of exercise. Yeah. So I think that's driven some of it too.
Yeah, and I guess also maybe an appreciation of, damn, how good it was just to use a squat rack and some dumbbells.
Yeah, I think that's part of it,
I know when I got back into the gym again, and because even if you get a decent setup at home, you're never going to have exactly all the weights and everything you want, and so it's like, you don't realize what you had until it's taken away from you sometimes,
right.
do you?
Right. I think people really craved that.
Yeah.
They really wanted to get back to the heavy lifting.
And what about the machines then? Have you seen people, because I guess that's another thing that people couldn't do at home, you know, your standard, your leg presses and chest presses and that stuff. Have you seen anything, you know, more the same in those types of items as well?
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, it seems like people are using at roughly the same level, maybe slightly less, but I think what's happened is there's been a general decline in selectorized equipment over the last several years. You know, I think the pandemic has sped up a lot of the behaviors, but, you know, I have to say, I think there's been a slight decline, but nothing dramatic. I think roughly the same level of use on machines.
And what about your group? Do you have like traditional group exercise studios in your clubs?
Yes. Yeah, we have, you know, Mind Body Studio, Spin Studio, General Studio in all of our locations. And certainly that's been a challenge, right, when we got shut down. And some of the mitigations we had in Chicago and Illinois were capacity related. So, you know, and man, did we fluctuate. You know, we went from, you know, being able to have X amount of people and it shrunk down and it got, I mean, we had so many changes. And so part of the, you know, issues we went through was the constant adaptation to the changing mitigations. But specifically in group fitness, you know, we've seen a big resurgence in our group fitness classes. I think, again, people want that community. You know, you want to work out with other people and feel the energy. And so I think that's been a big part of the success.
So in terms of live stream classes then, so is that something free that you offer to your members?
Yes, right now that's a value add to the members. And we're currently live streaming live classes. So what our members are getting, you know, in real life, members at home, if they, you know, and what's interesting is I think the demand for live stream has pivoted a bit. At one point, it could have been people were afraid to come into the clubs, right? Or couldn't get into the clubs because the clubs were shut down, didn't have access. I think one big benefit of creating our whole live streaming on-demand content and virtual personal training, virtual nutrition coaching is now when someone is traveling and they go out of town, they can continue to work with their fitness professional, or they can continue to take the class of the instructor that they would normally take during that week. You know, that's a pretty incredible thing that people have now.
Yeah.
So here we are, we're traveling, and if I wanted, I could log into any group fitness class that we're streaming this week and take the class in my room or have a personal trainer, you know, one-on-one. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That didn't exist, you know, 2 years ago.
Well, it was done by the trainers that used to work for clubs that decided to set up their own YouTube channel and then do on their own, but it weren't. I was talking to Richard about this, like the brands who do have the resources and train the trainers and everything, they're not necessarily seen as much of an expert, or hadn't been, as a, you know, Fred Smith trainer that's worked for 24 Hour Fitness for 10 years and now has got a YouTube channel. You know, those are the people that were getting the eyeballs, I guess.
Right.
In a lot of cases.
And that's shifted a lot,
right.
You know?
Right. Do you think that you're also able to tap into people that are probably still self-conscious of coming into the gym? I was chatting to someone the other day, and they mentioned that they were doing yoga, and a lot of people initially wouldn't even have the camera on because they just didn't want others to see what they were doing. And then over time, as they felt they could get the moves right or whatever, the camera would go on, and then suddenly they, you know, kind of got this new level of confidence to then maybe progress to a club. And for people that probably have got extremely out of shape, that just don't want anyone to look at them, you know, do you think that could be a way of sort of almost like a small step before they actually make the commitment of actually walking through the doors of a health club and, you know, working out in front of people?
Yes, we've seen it. You know, so I think one of the things that's certainly a benefit is, you know, you can't always offer beginner classes to people, right? Because you have this big demand for the classes at a level that you're currently teaching, right? People are expecting that experience. And you're constantly onboarding new members who aren't used to that level, right? Now they have a great platform. They can take any of these on-demand classes at home, get confident, learn the moves, build up their whatever they're needing, right, to then come to a live class. We've heard it, we've seen it, so we know it's working. So yeah, I think that's another great opportunity that's come through this transition.
Yeah. And then final question, John, what do you come to Sibec this year to look for? Are you just sort of trying to keep ahead of what's going on in the industry, or have you got any specific goals that you've come here for this year?
One of the things that's most important for me in coming to these events is a lot of our equipment partners are constantly innovating. And we don't know that. We don't know half of the capabilities that some of the equipment we have, what can do, or the education that they're providing on that equipment for our staff. So one of the things that I like to connect on is all of the current stuff that we have. How do we enhance that, right? How do we better communicate what we have to our customers? How do we better communicate that to our employees that can in turn teach that to our members, right? So I think that's one of the big benefits I'm looking for here. Also, certainly, I want to learn from what other people are doing, what successes they're having, especially in this time as we're, all looking to get back to the revenue and the energy and the employment that we had, pre-shutdown. So a lot of different things, right? And yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, John. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thank you.
Jarrod.
Matthew.
How you doing?
Good to see you again.
Thanks for joining us at
Absolutely.
Sibec in beautiful San Diego.
Yeah, not a bad spot to have another meeting, huh?
No, definitely not. So I thought we'd start, I won't go to start here, but you were talking about how do you define a big box? So come on, tell me.
Well, for me personally, I bet you could ask that question to 100 different professionals tomorrow.
I'm going to do
get
that.
100 different answers.
Right.
Defined from square footage or defined from amenities and services. So I'll be really curious. I'm not going to give you my answer today, but you ask your people tomorrow, and then let's circle back on that. Maybe we can do a whole show on what a big box really is.
Yeah. So would you define yourselves as a big box operator then?
I think in the past we were.
Right.
But I think in my new definition with what we're about to put out as a brand, I think we're going to play in the middle ground. Something I like to call mid-bow. Mid-bow.
So you've actually created your own category.
I've created my own category. Exactly. Yep. So I don't like being a follower. I like being a leader, and that's what we're going to do with World Gym. We're going to take our place back at the top of this thing, and we're going to lead the way, and we're going to create our own category as we do it.
All right. So what is mid-bow then? Or is that a secret?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, Matthew, But just to give you an idea, mid-bow would be basically a middle-sized gym. Right, so a box. So if you use a middle-sized box, but it has some features, amenities that some of the boutiques kind of have as well. So it's a perfect balance between your traditional big box gym and some of the boutique style offerings that you're seeing. Right. But it takes a really, I would say, I'm going to say scientific blend of those two to make sure you're not too much one way or too much another way. Trying to be something that you're really not.
Right.
So I've had a little help along the way, and we're excited to showcase it to the world real soon.
Yeah, sounds interesting. So did you define the other two above and below? Is it like kind of big B-bow? What do you call it? Mid-bow?
Yeah, I call it mid-bow.
Mid-bow. So
so you got mid-box and mid-boutique, right? So that's where the bow comes from.
So is there B-bow and SME-bow or something?
Yeah. Well, I guess traditionally you look at boutiques and studios as something under 5,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. They traditionally focus, not all, but traditionally focus on maybe one particular discipline or training style. It could be all cycling, it could be HIIT style, it could be, any of the popular ones, boxing or whatever it is. Now there's some that obviously add a few extra ones, right? You've seen Spenga, you've seen some of these other brands that do that. So traditionally a boutique kind of focuses on one, right? Then you look at a big box and they try and be everything to everybody. Well, what is everything to everybody? Do you really need everything? Do you really know your market? The world has changed. Since you and I have had our last conversation, the industry's changed. Do big box gyms really need to do what they've been doing for the last 25 years? I don't think so. And we're going to reinvent it, and that's why we created our own category.
So do you think, or not do you think, but has some of that come out of
back of the pandemic and needing to kind of be a lot more clearly differentiated from what everybody else is doing to attract a particular demographic that suits your brand? Is that
just look at the way the world has changed, right? I mean, forget the pandemic for a minute. We're so sick and tired of talking about that. That's one thing that's changed the world. But if you go back to early in my career, and I won't say the year, well, okay, I got to say year, but like, let's say the early mid-90s, right? Gym was cool, and then as we got into the late 90s, early 2000s, we had this conversation. You weren't allowed to say gym because it scared people away, and you had to say health and fitness center, and you had to do all these things. But our consumers changed. The gym is back. The gym is cool, and the consumer has changed now with social media and what drives them. We've spent so much time as an industry trying to attract the 80% of the population that don't work out. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people and a lot of brands out there who spend a lot of money trying to do that, and we haven't moved the needle.
no?
At what point do we say they don't want it? And do we focus on a population that does and hope and welcome with open arms those 80%ers? Eventually, we hope that they get the message. Maybe something like the pandemic opened their eyes to the fact that they have to lead a healthier lifestyle, which is something we got to do better as an industry. We'll welcome them with open arms, but maybe we need to change the way we deliver fitness to continue to attract and maintain the member now and the member of the future. And that's really what we looked at as we were starting to reconstruct who we are and what we do.
In that strategy for you guys then, I guess is going to be a case of taking market share away from your competitors, is that?
Well, I think in any business you want to do that, right? But I think there's a spot for all of us. People go, well, you're trying to destroy, conquer low-cost competition. Well, yeah, anybody is, but there's a place in the market. Those certain brands that came into the market at that price point, they did a great job attracting that 80% of the people. They weren't working out, and they thought, hey, this is a low barrier of entry. Let me get started. I'm going to position myself right after that. When you're ready to go more, we're going to be there for you. So when you're ready to take the next level and you really want to up your game and you really want to do something and go from that, hey, I just got started, I got into a rhythm, I got into a routine, but now I need to amp it up, that's where we're going to be.
I was at the boutique event, we were just chatting about that last week in New York, and they had some interesting numbers from the boutique space. So New York's obviously the home of boutique fitness, very high penetration of boutique studios. I can't remember the exact numbers, but within the last 10 years, it's ridiculous how that's grown. About 30%-ish have closed their doors forever, but there's still a big supply. But the interesting thing is the people that were going to the boutiques hasn't increased. So they've not done anything, as you said, to increase the percentage of the population that are working out. So I guess good and bad, but if you're competing in New York, then you've got to really, it's not easy. And I suppose in terms of what you're saying, it's similar approaches. How do we do better at sort of going after those people that are already coming through the doors?
Look, there's so many great brands out there that do great things, and they all appeal to different people. That's why people go to a buffet, right? They didn't want one type of cuisine or whatever. They wanted multiple choices, and so that we have that in our industry. But I'll tell you this, when you look at all these different boutiques and all these different styles of training, do you know most of those members still have a regular gym membership or a big box gym membership of some other kind? Because when they don't want to run on the treadmill for 27 minutes, or they don't want to hit the heavy bag, for X amount of rounds, or they don't want to do whatever that particular discipline is, they want to go do cardio, or they want to go get a lift in, they have another gym membership. Big box will never go away. No. Strength training, it's never going to go away. It's going to modify, it's going to change, it's going to evolve, which is what we're doing. But it's been there at the start, and it's never going to go. And so I think there's a place in the market for all of us. I think how many million Americans are there? 300 million Americans? There's plenty of pie out there for everybody. And I hope that if they don't join My World Gym, that they're joining some other facility to activate their lifestyle. Because that's a win for us as an industry. Whether they choose your place, my place, somebody else's place, great. As Americans, as human beings, that's what we want. But now from a selfish standpoint, I eventually want them to choose World Gym because I want them to know that we're serious about fitness and results, and we have the facility, the education, and the equipment and programs that are going to get them there, and they're going to have a great time doing it.
I was chatting to someone, I don't know whether this is a new trend, but where they were bringing together 3 or 4 boutique brands. So maybe someone that does HIIT training, someone does spin training, someone does recovery, and putting it into a building.
Why?
Well, Yeah, I guess.
The diversity over time, people get bored. I believe, and I got to check my stats after COVID, but before, the average boutique membership wasn't more than 5 months.
What's
Why?
our average Meebo?
18.
18, really? That's
Big difference.
Yeah.
So when you look at that and you go, why would somebody stay there longer? Because there's a lot more variety. There's a lot more to choose from. There's a lot more personalization where I don't want to do that class today. I just want to be by myself and go hit the steel. You know, whatever it is. I want to run on a treadmill. I want to be on that step mill. I don't want to be in a class today. That's what's great about having a mid-bow or a big box gym. Whether it's 10,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet, whatever it is. Studios, over time, people get bored. You know, Kerr's was an amazing franchise. It was dominant during its day. What it did, it set the industry. It was one of those game changers. But after a while, there was only so much going around that circle that they could do before they had to start reinventing themselves and trying to find different ways to attract people. And now we see that there's not many of them left. Still a great brand, still did an amazing thing for our industry, activated a ton of demographic that never would have stepped foot into my gym prior. They paved the way for those people, you know? So again, I believe there's a place for everybody, but over time, look at those statistics. There's nothing wrong with boutiques. There's plenty of awesome ones that I love to see, you know? I think they're great and they serve their purpose. But we're gonna be there when people are ready for something else.
How are you finding, it's been about 6 months since we had the last chat, how are you finding people coming back? Is it still strong? I was chatting to Peter from Blink and they said they had one of their strongest months recently. So are you finding things pretty good now?
Yeah, I think most running 80-85% of where they were previously. I don't think they're quite back to 100 yet. I think people are still finding their stride. You know, people dusting off the home equipment that they bought. I think, you know, a lot of people are starting to travel again. So you're still taking advantage of nice weather in Northern Hemisphere up here, obviously, because I know you have listeners all around the world. Spring, summer, they're going to be outside doing things. But I think you see September, October, I think you'll be seeing 100%, 100+% back to where we were as an industry and in most gyms. You know, I know some brands are having really strong months. You know, I talk to a lot of people, obviously, in the industry like you do. I think it's a mixed bag right now. I think it's very much, you know, area related, geographic location related. But I'm excited about the opportunity for the future. I think it's bright for all of us.
Are you seeing any different styles of, when I say styles, it's quite a broad description,
Yeah.
but are you seeing any different people coming into the doors that probably weren't coming into World Gym before, looking for anything different?
I think people are more conscious about wanting to do things right now. I definitely see you see an uptick in personal training and services like that because people can get one-on-one, or maybe they're still a little hesitant to be in the gym because the world pinned us as the bad guy, right? So they know they got to work out, but they want a little different experience. So you're starting to see a little more personalized services in that regard. I think group fitness has changed.
In what way?
Well, I think people are starting to look at their options differently. You know, a lot of gyms making the move to hybrid models or omni-channel approaches. I think studios are not as full as they once were. And I think that we as an industry probably need to look at that collectively and go, how do we reinvent that?
And what do you think is the direction? Is it a boutique within a club? Is it a boutique experience? But who was I talking to the other week about similar comment actually, where they're like, no, we're just going to do a better job of our studios. It's still going to be free. It's still exactly the same, but because people could be going to a Soul Cycle on Orange Theory, we've got to elevate the sort of quality of that experience.
Well, I think somebody said it before that, you know, imitation is the best form of flattery, right? But then they also talk about, you know, when you're a follower, you're not a leader, and you're just kind of following. So which one is it,
Yeah.
right? And I think there's a balance there. I think we can learn a lot from what they do. They deliver a remarkable experience. They have great atmosphere and energy. They build community in a fantastic way. And there's a lot that we can learn as mid-box or big box operators, you know. But I don't think we should do the same things. And I think it takes creativity to do something different. And we are working on a new solution, and I can't wait to share that with you. I can't do it right now, but I will in the future. But we got something really cool coming out just to suit that whole question that you just asked.
Well, I guess you got to decide where you. There's a book. It's called Play to Win, and I quite like it because it's a great way of thinking about strategy. And I suppose it's very difficult for a mid-box. What do you call it, Mid-bow, to compete with a boutique on a number of levels. Because that's not who you are. But I suppose it's trying to find, well, how can you compete and not just compete, but play to win, essentially. And I suppose there are a lot of other things that you've got. It's just trying to understand the economics of those models, isn't it?
Sure.
Because I guess cost, staff, build out, equipment is all going up, and you've got to keep the value in mind as well, I suppose.
Absolutely. And that's, look at our industry. The smaller facilities get the higher price, the bigger the box, the smaller the price. What is that about?
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I think, before 2007, 2008, that big box gym was headed into those upper tier numbers, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 a month. Then, the world crashed here a little bit, right? Some different players came to the market. The model changed. It became a commodity. We got to go cheap fitness. Everybody said, oh my God, we got to drop our prices. No, we don't. We just have to know who we are and who we appeal to. Mm-hmm. Again, there's share for everybody, but you got to stick to who you are as a brand and what you deliver. My member may not necessarily be your member, and it may not be what they're looking for. And I think we'll do a better job if a lot of us collaborate together. We're competitors, but at the same time, events like this or Club Solutions or other events give us an opportunity to work together and see how we can do things as an industry and help more people get and lead active lifestyles. And I think that's really the most important part of it. But again, I do believe there's a spot for everybody. But you got to know who your target is. You're not going to appeal to everybody.
No, I guess that's the problem when you try and do that. You end up failing in most cases, I guess.
And let's put it this way. I think the last time we had a conversation, I said, I don't lose, I win or I learn. I've done a lot of learning in my career, but I think that's the case with things like this. A lot of trial and error. I think there's a lot of gyms that tried to go put all these boutiques in or do these different things, and now you've got 4 studios. You got a group studio, you got a cycle studio, you got a yoga studio. Now I got to have a HIIT studio. Now I got to holy smokes, that's a lot of real estate. A lot of things to keep up, a lot of things to staff, a lot of things to outfit.
Quality.
What are you doing?
Of the products.
You're chasing a rabbit down a hole. And you're not a 3,000 square foot boutique. You're 35,000, 45,000, 50,000. So the expense is a lot different.
What about franchise? How's that? Is it still a market where people are interested in investing and opening up fitness centers, or is there a lot of caution on that as well?
It's interesting. You would think that some people, just considering the way the world painted the picture of us, that it would take a hit. Now, back during, when the pandemic was raging, of course, franchise sales weren't exactly the record numbers that you hope they were, but at the same time, we're seeing a really big uptick in interest. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, there's a lot of people that lost their jobs and are looking for something to do. They've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. They've always wanted to own their own business, or they've always loved the gym business, but they always want to own a gym. Guess what? Now's the time. A lot of people are looking at their life going, this is the second chance. I didn't ask for it. I wanted it. I got it. Now what am I going to do with it? And opening a gym, especially a world gym, is a fantastic opportunity because, being a legacy brand, 46 years, we were there at the beginning. We're here now. We're about to reinvent the model, create a new category, do some cool stuff. But we have systems and processes and branding and things in place to make an entrepreneur feel a lot more comfortable than going at it on their own.
And where are you seeing that interest? Is it US? Is it international? Or a bit of both?
Everywhere. Yeah, we've got growth going. Our focus right now as a brand is domestic, here at home, USA, Canada, but particularly in the US. But we've got growth everywhere right now. Egypt, Australia, Taiwan. I mean, it's great to see, and so we're looking forward to putting several hundred units back on US soil.
So final question, what are you here at Sibec looking for in particular? Have you got any specific goals or outcomes from?
I love this event. This is probably my favorite industry event. Being able to sit one-on-one and network and have a conversation. Trade shows are great, but there's so much going on, right? It's like you need blinders on because there's a lot of atmosphere, but you have great conversations, you get good networking. I do a lot more business here, from negotiating contracts or deals or learning what's coming out or getting private time on a piece of equipment that I haven't seen before that really gives me an insight or advantage as to what I'm planning on doing in the future. But at the end of the day, it's about relationships. So they're not vendors to me, they're partners. And that's what I'm here looking for, and to strengthen relationships and create new ones.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm
Always
looking
a pleasure,
forward to
man.
hear about that new Mebo category.
It's going to be awesome. I'll make sure you're one of the first to know.
Thank you. So the reason we're having this interview, just to give you a backstory, is my wife thought you were Bono last night in the boat party.
And I don't have all my props with me, but yeah, no, right.
And she said, he must be famous. And,
Yeah.
and as it materialized, we were introduced by a common friend, Mike Ravansky, who introduced us last year at Sibec. And it reminded me about this project that you had, which is a little bit different than what most people are doing. So tell us a bit about your business, what you're doing, and why you decided to set it up.
Fitness project.
Fitness project.
So, without going down a rabbit hole, we're in another brand for 20 years, a great brand. Most would recognize me, probably haven't been associated with that brand. And so, can I say the brand?
Go on, tell
Yeah,
us.
Gold's Gym.
Okay.
Great brand, great people, great friends, and brought me to do things like this over the years. As we were going through our life, there was an opportunity that my wife presented to the family to go do a mission trip in Guatemala. The risk of embarrassing myself, I remember thinking that's a horrible idea. I didn't say it, I thought it. And I thought a lot of folks, they go to Haiti and they want to put it on their Facebook page, and that's cool. But in Houston, there's plenty of places that you can kind of press into areas of opportunity and help less fortunate folks without going to Guatemala. Yeah. But because I was unable to muster up the confidence to say, no, honey, we're not going to go, I just acted like it was a good idea. And this went on for a period of weeks. My wife bought us some tickets to go to Guatemala to what would be an orphanage that we arrived at. And as soon as we got in Guatemala for the first time, I thought, this is exactly what I thought. There's no HVAC, there's no air conditioning, I'm on a chicken bus, and I don't have any connection on my phone. That's exactly what I thought. And so the trip continues now. That's 1 minute into it. Now we're in Guatemala. We pull into the gates of this orphanage with 500 children that have no moms and dads, of course. And unlike helping maybe over the weekend in Houston, passing out blankets and retreating to my Tempur-Pedic at night and checking off the box, we lived at the orphanage for a week or so, where kids got to know our name and we knew them. And so as we wrapped that visit up, I remember feeling a sense of, almost aggravation that other folks get to stay and I got to go back to the States to my people problems, because the three things I learned the children need to be happy is love, safety, and food. And that wasn't me. And it was in that moment I recognized that I thought I was going to help these kids out, but these kids were helping me out. Went home with that. Fast forward, now I own a house in Guatemala. We're going 8 times a year. And so there's this sort of path that we're going where my heart's changing, my ideas are changing. That is that, if you really want to help people, is it only when they're in the gym or is it out of the gym too? I mean, if you really want to help people. And so this is kind of happening in the back of my brain. So that expands from going to Guatemala to the wife says, well, why don't we do some foster work? That's a horrible idea. We have the house in Guatemala. Let's just stick to the plan and keep introducing the folks to this. And foster babies come and go. And we learn a lot through the process. And one baby in particular, about 2 months into the foster program, CPS knocks on the door and they say, hey, if the Murphys don't declare themselves without the parents, we're going to have to take the baby and put them in the program. And it was in that moment I said to my wife, Chrissy, I said, so we're going to go back to Guatemala, save all these kids who are really saving us, and there's a baby in our house that no one in the world knows his name or wonders where he's at. I said, that makes us liars. So we did the adoption. So little baby Mateo Murphy is now 3.5. He was 5 when we got him. Now here comes the business part of it. So I'm stuck with these clubs and all this square footage, tens of thousands of members, 400 employees.
Do you
At the time, 6.
Okay.
And so we had all the clubs, hundreds of employees. I can't just stop. but my heart's kind of taking me down this other path. And so this was the moment where I thought, how can I take my business platform and use it really as a platform to do things for folks, yes, in the club, but maybe out of the club too. So without being churchy, I would only tell you that the origin of the name came from when I was sitting in my church, which is Church Project. And so, talked about what's a church or what's a project. Well, fitness is fitness, but a project, we believe, is a target that someone's in pursuit of, haven't quite reached it, and often is changing.
Right.
And so I thought this I believe is my idea as far as a fitness club. Everyone has a fitness project. It used to be I wanted to meet my wife, look good at the beach, check off the boxes. But now fast forward, I'm a 52-and-a-half-year-old man with a baby, and I would like not to have to roll into his graduation if I don't have to. And so I'm working out. My projects have changed. So I'm sitting in my hot tub with my daughter, Kylie, at the time, and I'm describing to her this vision I have of where we can walk people through our clubs, fitness project. And as we get to what we would call, this area where we could, maybe have on display different projects that we're supporting, Wounded Warrior Project, most specifically CASA, which is Court Appointed Special Advocates for Foster Kids, Habitat for Humanity. I said to Kylie, I said, imagine I walk a guest through the club and I talk about maybe making a discrete contribution to any of these projects, and we'll waive your startup cost if you choose to move forward. So there's still a call to action, and we're asking members just to consider creating some exposure to it, as I was exposed to some things. And so she says, Dad, she said, you should call that your project wall. I said, that's it. And so that's what we called it. And so as you walk through our clubs now, we have these project walls in our club. Members are checking it out. We have a third party, hands-off idea where folks can use DonorBox, where they make the contributions through DonorBox, so it's scalable, it's replicable, it's sustainable. And members are writing checks. And so last year we raised about $100,000 for these projects. We will complete our first home that we built for a local couple near one of our clubs. And so very early on in this, I remember one of the vendors said, hey, we nominated you for the Club of the Month or something. We want to do a podcast, and here's the questions. And so I could have some really good, clever answers. I got the questions, and the first question was, why did you become a purpose-driven business? And I'm like, well, what exactly does that mean? And so, of course, I went right to Siri, and I asked Siri what that was, and Alexa, what it was. And so I resorted to Google and just typed in purpose-driven business. And the first thing that popped up was something that's obvious to us, but I've not read it, and that is most people are looking to fit their role to their soul.
Okay.
And when I started reading that, and I kept reading it, and the percentages about it, it's like, it wasn't exactly my intention. But the takeaway is this, is that it isn't really about raising money for these opportunities. It's about raising awareness, raising accountability, because whatever moves you, we believe, is the reason that we should consider working out. So if I ask you to show me 2 images in your phone of someone that would make you the best version of yourself, probably don't show me a picture of you.
Right.
And so if that's true, and if it is, that's okay too, then we want to press into why people are motivated to do something. I believe people want to help change people's lives. And so ultimately, hurricanes in Houston always happen. And when the hurricanes happen, people come out of the woodwork to raise money and help out. And my belief is that hurricanes come in different forms. And why does it take a hurricane to help? And so at the end, we found a way to use our platform to help people, yes, in the club, but out of the club. And it just reinvigorated my enthusiasm for fitness, but really, really helping people in more ways than one. So that's kind of the story.
So my guess is that you were relatively successful before this happened with your clubs. Am I sort of reasonably?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah,
yeah.
And how you define success, I suppose, as well. But I suppose you'd built a business, and so was this for you then a kind of, was this a point in your life where you kind of, and particularly when you mentioned connecting your purpose with your, how do you describe that?
Your soul with your role.
Soul with your role, yeah. So did you sort of feel as though you kind of got to a stage with your previous thing, and then it was like, okay, well, what am I doing this for? And this kind of came to you, and then I suppose you were still doing what you was doing previously, but it had a lot more meaning to why you were putting in that effort beyond just sort of making money out of it. Was it?
There's no doubt. And I, so back to my time with the brand, which is just, again, one of the best brands. We won Franchisee of the Year, President's Award, Best Marketing Award, Personal Training, everything on the list. And I would pat myself on the back. So we felt success in that space and amongst our peers, but I just fell out of love with what I was doing, selling key cards. And I just wasn't having a good time anymore. And at one point, it's like, I think it's time I exit, and so I lost something in there. Maybe it's because when I started, I really was in the fitness business. Sets, reps, weights, putting together programs, solving problems for folks. The latter part of my career, it's landlords, leases, and legal. And so because of that and other things, it rebirthed, something that was fresh and unique. And I've not met a person yet that hasn't said that's just really awesome. And I'm not doing it to impress anybody. I'm just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so that on top of it being fitness, I mean, that kind of really just brings it all back to why I do this, why it makes sense to me.
How have things gone with you over the last few years? So again, slightly different, I suppose, proposition, and I guess the people that are involved in you in terms of the members see that you've got a greater purpose in what you're doing. How have you seen the people that have been with you over the last sort of few years? Have you, have they sort of stood by and supported you because of some of those intentions that you've got, or how does that, I suppose, maybe it's, what is it called, some sort of cause-driven business relate to, like a genuine business outcome at all?
Well, and you mean like sort of what's been the how's it been perceived to the community?
Yeah, I guess a lot of people have been through the last few years, and I've seen a number of people that have been very successful at bringing their membership base with them and supporting them and almost being cheerleaders, and some people that have just been absolutely devastated and struggling to get them back. Have you found that your community of members or clients, whatever you call them, have been pretty loyal, and do you think some of that has got anything to do with the fact that you're not just there swiping cards and taking their money?
Well, if the membership counts speak to that at all, we're so far past pre-COVID numbers. It's quite unbelievable, and I'm sensitive to those who don't live and reside and do business in Houston, Texas.
Right, yeah.
So there's some logistical things that have really worked in our favor, but the members have responded in ways like I've never seen. We've had members that have actually become advocates to work with some of these, literally an advocate to work with foster kids. That never would have happened. So that's great. And they're getting in shape, so the members have loved it. The staff loves it. There's a tremendous pride we have in it being our brand, our website, our app, our logo. Coincidentally, we also were able to trademark our slogan, which is above the stage in our group exercise room, which is workout on purpose. And it's not unusual for one of our instructors before a workout to call someone out. Say, what's your purpose? Why are you here?
Right.
And just reflect on that for a minute. And what an opportunity is, right, compared to other countries dealing with other things, to be able to walk in and do this great stuff. So, and it was a hard reset. So some of the things that we perhaps could have done better under a different brand, and sort of reflect on how we might want to rethink about policy, we were able to create some separation from that and say, this is us now. We do things differently. And in addition to the change of the brand, the change of the culture, we made some very dramatic business model changes during the short time we were closed for COVID as well. Most notably, we discontinued personal training.
Really?
Coming into COVID, it was already becoming an area that was a challenge. Margins getting, pressed, the good ones leaving. Of course, we heard a great conversation yesterday about, how to really press into those things. And I agreed with everything that I heard. But my objective is to be scalable, replicable, and sustainable. And there's some great personal trainer operators out there, and there are some not great personal trainer operators out there. Now, at the same time we did that, we rolled out a new concept of our studios in our clubs, where it was out with one, in with the other, where we really pushed into our studio level offering, which is basically our version of a Soul Cycle, our version of a Orange Theory, or a version of a CrossFit. Which, by the way, those three examples, I don't think they have personal trainers. And so why do we need that? I think it's been traditionally so much the way we do it, we just press into that and try to do it harder every single year. But also with that came more managerial issues, accountability issues, more people. And as I mentioned before, sometimes people, I can take them or leave them. And so I want to remove people in places with processes and be good at a couple things. And we're good at the group format. We're good at personal training alternatives. And if it's true that when someone buys a drill, they really want the hole, then maybe it's true that when they get a key card, it's not they want the tread, they want the benefit of the treadmill, or there's some weirdos that love to work out. But the majority of them, they love the benefits of working out. And if I told someone that I could show you a way through accountability, community, information, concepts, ideas, where we could get you there quicker with less time, less money, and less pain, they're willing to try it out. And so that's what the studio does for us, is we've changed that. So that's a big change.
So do you have, in terms of your model, you have a traditional gym floor area, do you?
We do.
Okay.
And then inside that gym, we literally have studios where with your app, you scan the kiosk and you either have access to the studio or you don't. And of course, we have the tiered memberships. And so we can service 18 to 30 people at a time with a better margin. And, my experience has been, my wife, who runs a group exercise part of our program with 180 instructors, is, generally speaking, I believe that many of those men and women teaching those classes don't need the money. They want the money, but they don't need the money. They just want to be out there doing what they do. And so that has provided such a stable set of circumstances that we can always be sure we're offering these classes that start on time, end on time. They're well replicated. Having the hotshot trainer at this club who leaves such a big hole. And so I'm not certainly suggesting there's not a great place for personal training. But I do believe that there's some other brands out there that years ago I laughed at because they served Tootsie Rolls, but they were clerking these stores that really anybody could do something like that. Not everybody can go out and hire a personal training team and do it over multiple locations. The other big change we made is we got rid of salespeople. I had this idea that when I go to the dentist in one of my communities, the individual who takes my money is the same person who's standing by the dentist in the dentist chair, who can do all these things because they're intelligent, they're smart, and so and they care, and they're likable. And so we basically decided if we're ever going to make some hard pivots, it's a great time to do it. We're a new brand. We open up fresh, and so the individual who before was merely a front desk person, and I don't know, maybe not smart enough to do the rest of the job, I found that wasn't true. In part because my son wants to work for one of our clubs, and he said, "Dad, I don't really like my job because I don't know how to do everything." And yet we changed it with that sort of insight, where the front desk team member now does all that, plus they do the rest of the process. So they walk you around the club. You're not being handed off to the shiny shoe sales guy because the other person can't ask some questions. And so if a front desk person is good enough to answer our phones, all of our inbound inquiries, all of our walk-ins, certainly they're good enough to continue the process. And so we really condensed some of these positions, streamlined operations, cut massive operational costs, and I believe we created a better job for the people on the front line, which in turn, I believe the member and the prospect member really has experienced that it's a different mood in our clubs. Yeah.
So in terms of the progression for the people that come in the doors then, so they'll go and they'll have access to the regular fitness facility, and then ideally you'll want to get them into some sort of community-based group class to then meet other people, stay longer, get the outcomes that they want. Is that kind of how it works, or is it not as linear as that?
No, I mean we're not really trying to push any of our ideas onto anybody. We make a gentle nudge for people to give considerations as to what the opportunities are in our community, where these people, the programs, the projects that we support, in almost every way, they trace back to us, whether our kids know their kids, or our moms and dads know their moms and dads, or these are people that live amongst us, and so we simply want to expose what's going on to people in our neck of the woods, and just try to make a difference, but not say, you know what, you don't belong here if you don't want to make some kind of contribution or you don't want to be a part of this. But in almost every case, as I said, minus some of the high school students that are the same I was when I was going to the gym in those days, people are just loving what we're doing, and no one more than me.
How have you found that translates into, I suppose, people getting what they want from a fitness experience and staying longer? You've obviously been involved with a brand that's done that, probably one of the longest in the industry, really. Gold's, they've been, they're one of the sort of original brands. Have you found that for a slightly different, unconventional approach, you've been able to be successful in some of those challenges that the industry still probably faces today?
And you mean in regards to
keeping people coming back, feeling as though they're getting what they want from a facility?
Well, perhaps unexpectedly, when we launched our own brand, there's a whole different level of that ownership mentality. We were owners before, but I mean now it's like we really own it. I mean, it's like we're not dating anymore. We have married our brand, and I believe as a result of that, there's been sort of this sort of natural, organic, like to say, unintended, bigger effort, to take inbound cancellation requests. We take every single person that wants to cancel and have a conversation with them. Some say, some don't, but it matters to us why they're leaving. And so we've done a few things that are different in that way, but we deal with the same challenges that we did before. One of the things we don't deal with, though, before, or again, some of the mistakes that maybe that kind of followed us around for years, being in the market for 17 years, some reviews that we can't take away. And as I said, just kind of doing it all over again. If you could replant your yard, you may do that a little bit different. I know I would. So yeah, that's a ridiculous analogy, but I guess it's a bad answer to saying things are much the same. Our approach, our attitude, and our effort has changed, and the result.
And final question, because we're only going to go for 10 to 15 minutes, but it's an interesting conversation. You say you like to have scalable and replicatable. Is that the second one? What was the third
Sustainable.
one? Sustainable. So in terms of the replicatable, have you, as a business owner, leader, and you say about taking the calls for people who want to leave and having that personal contact and that sort of purpose that you sort of obviously get to many of the people who use your facilities, is that something that you had to kind of really work with your sort of inner and circles around you to be able to also buy into that, so that you could scale it beyond yourself? Because obviously you've got a lot of people and members and clubs to be able to try and sort of maintain that pure message. Is that something that you work on a lot, so everybody still is connected to that purpose as what you would be if you were doing it?
And do you mean, and I want to make sure I answer the question exactly how you intended, as far as having our team bought into the concept and be an extension of my own sort of ideas? Or
yeah, so I suppose, and I don't want to pick on Gold, so I'll use another brand so it doesn't sound as though I'm but I guess there's a lot of brands, when you've got 1 or 2 studios, it's very easy that they know you, you come in, you say hi if you're around, and then once you start getting bigger, naturally you have to create a bit of space so that you can do other things and you can deal with the landlords and the legal, etc. Have you been able to successfully replicate your involvement, as it would be from a single location, to being able to sort of get the people around you to do that with multiple locations?
To the degree that my expectations are satisfied, no. Is it a journey that we're on trajectory to hit that target?
Project.
Absolutely. It started by when the switch was going to come, I rehired everybody. And I reset the expectation, and I told them in advance, I don't expect you to feel what I feel and think what I think. That would be ridiculous, and this may not be a fit for you. And that's okay. Let's just fail fast. But here's what's going to happen. And here's why I'm doing it. And so I believe taking the time to really share the story, where I personally went to every location, I talked to everybody. And it was a job. It was a process to do that. But they heard it right from the top. You don't have to agree with it, but they deserve to understand it. And so with that being sort of the beginning game, by making massive changes, so again, when I talk about scalability, replicability, getting rid of some of these other areas, the salesperson, where for me at least, I found I can teach a nice person how to sell. I can't always teach a salesperson how to be nice. So we really started using other ideas as our guiding force of who's going to work in our club, and went after the nice people that are teachable. So the hiring process has changed vastly. No one gets hired without doing a video for us why they should be working out at fitness projects. Speaking to one of the vendors here earlier today, and I said, because I had a challenge, I needed them to solve the challenge, and I said, when we interview people and say, listen, Matthew, we're looking for someone who is smart, a self-starter, and always well-shaved when they come in the club. Tell me about yourself. Well, I'm always well-shaved, and I'm smart, and I'm actually a self-starter. It's like, so we don't give them the answer to the test. Right. Give me a video, and if they can't do that, then they can't take 7th grade, because my 7th grader is now doing this, which is where the idea came from. So little things like that, little hurdles that we've put up that changes the hiring process. We can weed out what would otherwise be an unnecessary aggravation. We don't always get it right.
Are you hiring more sort of by values based as opposed to kind of skill based then? So you're looking at what their key drivers and motivators are, and then building up around.
I think that's a fair assessment. We're not looking for salespeople. We're not looking. I was a good buddy of mine, Peter Moore, Integrity Square.
Yeah, I know Peter.
Not the smartest guy I've ever met, but one of the smartest guys. And so I went through his Halo Academy, and he provided us the privilege of listening to some of these different superstars out there, including the founder of SoulCycle. And the founder of SoulCycle, and I forget her name off the top of my head, but basically shared with us sort of that vision and that path where, for her, it's like we never wanted to hire previously, these are my words, cycling superstars that we had to kind of deprogram. We're really looking for entertainers. And that was kind of a wall-on moment. Also something that weighed heavily as far as my idea of, instead of these personal trainers, these group fitness instructors who love being on stage performing, let them be our service provider. So yes, I mean, changing some policies. We were super stringent, and I was just brought up that way, stick to the terms of the agreement. Well, we still do that, but we changed some of the terms of the agreement. And again, a big opportunity for me was actually employing 2 of my own children, where they're on the inside now seeing what it feels like to work in our clubs. And I didn't like some of what they had to say. So all these things, others that I'm not thinking about, has better enabled us to, pick our path, our target, and pursue it. And for the most part, aside from, again, some of the obvious challenges that we all still deal with, like getting people to work on time, the mood of the club is better than it's ever been.
Fantastic. So final question then, what do you come to look for at Sibec? What were some of your key goals and objectives of coming here this year?
First, just to continue to demonstrate gratitude to a lot of the vendors I've had relationships here with for longer than I've known my children. Some that have made a big impact on my business, others that will, and I probably don't even know it. Some folks I've met through, again, some of the other great brands I've dealt with. We onboarded a new insurance group today we're excited to work with that we talked for 10 years. Knew that he would be here, and amongst others. So there's never any one reason that I would make these trips except for the fact that I'm reminded every time I do it, something good always happens. And so yeah, I mean, there are some companies I want to talk to you about, some opportunities on the hardware side. That's something that we've neglected for many years, and so yeah, you know, it's never one thing. It's like 10 really awesome things, and yeah, so we have some new partnerships as we leave here.
Fantastic.
This week. So.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
great story.
I
What's the
enjoyed visiting
website, by
with
the
you.
way, in case anyone's interested?
Fitnessproject.us, the .us, and hope they'll go on it. And there's a little video, I told you about it, that it's sort of long, but it's much shorter than listening to my story. We've got like a 7-minute video as far as the essence of Fitness Project, why we did it, how we did it, and what it means to us. So hope some folks will check that out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having me. Yeah, good
Thank
talking to you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.